Hi everybody, my name is Purti Chawla. I'm the manager for Ielts here at Leverage Edu. Welcome to the session. And today we'll be talking about one of the most challenging aspects of the exam, which is writing. So I'm going to take you through both task 1 and task 2, give you some tips and strategies and do's and don'ts for the exam, and also tell you what we at Leverage are going to help you with and our live online sessions. So sit tight and feel free to ask any doubts if you have. Whenever you're watching this, you would be able to connect with us. So let's start with the session today. So IELTS writing, right? Those of you who already are aware of it would know that they give you certain questions and you're supposed to give them an answer. But it is not as simple as it sounds. Now, IELTS writing is one aspect of the exam. IELTS reading and listening is objective, so they're asking for one-word answers. But writing and speaking, they're both subjective. So that means you're supposed to produce ideas, give them the main pointers, and explain your ideas. Now, this explanation and providing your ideas has to be done in a very specific manner. So every year, what IELTS does is they put out some statistics for institutions and the countries, and it is seen that writing is one area of the language where most of the students falter. Now, the reason is because here they're trying to assess you not just on your ability to produce ideas, but to produce them in a certain manner. So the answers are very structured in nature, and if you don't give them that, of course, they are going to end up not giving you the marks. Now, because I say they are subjective, so that means everybody is going to have a different version or alternative to the answer, right? So who's to say that which one's correct or not? So actually, all answers are correct as long as you're addressing the question. And then they give you a band score, which is how they are assessing you based on your ability to write academically or formally. So there are 4 criteria on which they are checking you. Nothing apart from that is assessed. So they see if your answer is structured, it is organized. So coherence and cohesion score is that. How well can the reader, and in our case the examiner, understand your points? What is the flow of ideas? Is there any connection between ideas, or are you just randomly putting down your thoughts however they are coming? So we shouldn't do that. I'll also I'm naming the points that they are assessing, and then we'll talk in detail about the do's and don'ts and some tips as well. So they're trying to just assess you on academic writing, so the structure of your answer. Then task response or task achievement is how well you're able to answer the questions. That's another area, and it's one major aspect of your answers which students end up not covering, or covering it partially or not enough, inappropriately. So this is one big area that we need to focus on. How well are you able to answer the questions? And then language-wise, grammar plus vocabulary. Now, when I say vocabulary, a lot of students think that, they'd be able to use fancy words and be able to grab a high score in it. Well, yes. So lexical resource, vocabulary score, you would be able to if you're using better words in variety, but that's not just all that they are looking at. They want to see a lot of things under vocabulary, and that's a 7 minimum. They don't even would give you more than a 7 if you're not covering a couple of things. So 7 plus is considered to be a fantastic score in writing, and there are multiple things that you'd have to juggle together in order to ensure that you're getting to that. And finally, then there is grammar. Here they're checking your range plus accuracy. So whatever you're writing should grammatically also be sound, not just complex sentences and all of that. Now, when I talk about grammar, of course, people tell you to write long sentences or to not give simple sentences. So I just give you authentic information here, things that IELTS state, and we always go with them. So now let's talk about some do's and don'ts and part 1 questions also, and I'll tell you what to do and what not to do around it. So those of you who are planning to take the exam, who unfortunately have missed out on taking our sessions, But use this session to clear out any doubts if you have, and just remember and note down these tips I'm giving you, so that when next week you have your exam, or this week you'd be able to get to that 7 band, hopefully. And those of you who are planning to take it later on, I'd strongly advise to just remember that these are some tips that I'm giving you. There are more, and in detail, that practice and feedback on your answers that we do in the sessions. But we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about task 1 first. So for academic students, those of you who are planning to study abroad, for you guys, the first task is writing a report. So there's a diagram given to you, a picture, and you are supposed to describe it. Now this has to be done in around 20 minutes and minimum 150 words. Now when I tell this to students, you don't have to, not think that you cannot exceed it. You definitely can and should exceed this word count. So it needs to be around 180, 190 words. That's like a, pleasant or safe answer. Anything above 150 is considered to be correct in terms of the word count. But once you see that you're writing sufficient information, it usually ends around 180, 190 words. So that's always, the target. Even if you're touching 200, that's okay. But like some students go on writing 250, 300. So that means you're, digressing too much from the topic. That's not what you want in writing. They don't want your ideas. They don't care about how much you know about the topic or how many points you can give. As long as it is to the point and you are fulfilling the task, that's all that they want. Giving them more always puts you in a risk of digressing from the topic and going off topic. And of course, the expert here in the sessions and when you submit your answers would be able to tell, what you should do, what you shouldn't. So task 1 is writing a report. Now this has to be done in a very specified order, like I've been telling you until now. So this picture, they give you some statistics, some data, some processes, or a map question. There are 6 types of questions that you could get. Now here you're supposed to give them the answer in paragraphs. And the order that we follow is from general to specific. So there's the introduction, there's the second paragraph called overview, and then body paragraphs. From general, which is introduction and our overview, then we go into specific body paragraph where we give details. Now, introduction is simply 1 line long sentence, which whatever they've told us in the question, we also tell them the same thing. No extra information to be added. What is the graph showing us? That's the only thing we have to tell them. But so when we are paraphrasing, of course, there are 2-3 ways in which you can add to that information, and we do that in the sessions. But remember this, that you don't have to give them anything else apart from the question. So if they're giving you data about oil prices in France, UK, Germany, and let's say China, these 4 countries, which country the price has increased or decreased, all that will come later. We just need to tell them introduction that this is increasing. That's all. Whatever they tell you in the question, it is given, you take it and not use the same words. That's important. So paraphrasing, telling the same idea in different words, has 2-3 nuances to it, which of course we discuss in the sessions. Then we come to the overview, which is the most important paragraph of your answer. You cannot get wrong here. You will not get a 7 if you go wrong here. Now, overview, as the name suggests, talks about the overall changes or key features that the data is showing you. With different kind of questions, this is different. So for map questions, the overview is different. For line graph, it is different. For point of time, so for bar graph, pie chart, it is different. And for process diagram, it is different. So there are 4 types of overviews or key features that you'd have to look at. And remember, and depending on the question you've got, use that. Just a recent exam question, which 2 of my students got recent exam questions. So recently was a table. So that is what is going on. And of course, we, in the classes, we keep updating our students with what other students have got. So what is there in the present moment. Now, this overview that I'm talking about, here we have to talk about the key changes or key trajectory that the graph is showing to us. So depending on the graph, so for instance, let's say in the line graph where they give me lines and they give me a period of time. So for instance, how much of let's say tea and coffee is being consumed by these 4 kinds of people over this time period. So for instance, they start at let's say 1 liter in a week to 3 liters in a week. So, they give you pointers, they give you all the numbers. You don't have to write anything from your side. Now, in the overview, so I'm going to see whether this number has increased or has it decreased or not changed. That's one of the key features I mentioned. So from the starting and the last point, I'm going to see whether there has been an increase or decrease, or it is oscillating in between, fluctuating or not changing. Or then if it is increasing, then I'm going to see whether there's a minor change in it, there's a major one, and depending on it, I'm going to use adjectives and adverbs accordingly. Now, in writing task 1, they don't care about, the reasons you give for it, the opinions. In fact, you don't have to talk about it. You don't have to say why there has been a change or why people are preferring one over the other. Since you don't have to give opinions, you don't have to use any personal pronouns in writing. So you will not say, we can see, or I can see this change happening. No pronouns, no personal, no possessive pronouns. I, we, our, you, nothing. Always write it in formal terms. So you can say that, it can be seen that the number is increasing. And then I add to the adjective or the adverb. So then I can say, it can be seen that the number is increasing significantly, or the number is increasing marginally or steadily. Now, these are the terms which the IELTS examiner is looking for in your answer. The adjectives, adverbs, verbs, and nouns. And all of that, of course, in the live sessions we provide you with. You don't have to remember a long list of it. That's not useful. So, giving you certain words to memorize, that would not work. You need to know a couple of synonyms and that would do. So don't burden yourself with unnecessary extra information. According to the graph, of course, you'd have to see what sort of increase or what sort of change there is and write accordingly. But of course, you cannot, use the same words. Repeat yourself. That is something that's going to cost you, both in grammar plus in vocabulary. Now, when I say grammar and, this linking, there are these linkers or cohesive devices which I have, which will help me connect my answers, my pointers together, my paragraphs together, plus give me complex sentences also. So I told you, complex sentences do not mean longer, difficult sentences, not at all. It's just an amalgamation of one or, more than one clauses. There are different types of sentences. So in the sessions, the instructor would tell you that. Hardly a few that you'd have to remember and write your answers around them. So use those words and frame your sentences. So for instance, let's say in the same line graph, one number is increasing, the other one is decreasing. So instead of simply putting it, I put a linker, let's say while or whereas or but. So let's say the number in UK is increasing, whereas the number in US has declined. So I'm also giving them different sentence structures. So is increasing or has declined, and I'm not giving them simple sentences. So I've joined it together with a but or a whereas or a while if there's a contrast. So avoiding simple sentences as much as possible, because an amalgamation of simple plus complex will give you a band 6 straight away. So complex sentences lead you to a 7, and accurate ones, of course. So in the sessions, we tell you how to use them, how to use these words, where to put commas, so punctuation also, or semicolon, where to put a bracket. And just one more tip that I'm going to add to here. So like pronouns, personal and possessive, we don't have to use. Another thing you don't have to do is to use contractions. So, apostrophe S's. So can't, don't, it's, theirs. You cannot use these words. Go with the full forms. Both task 1, task 2. This is equally valid for general training students. Now for you, the question is of course different. You get a letter. Could be a formal, semi-formal or informal letter. Now all these rules for formal writing will be followed in formal and semi-formal letters. When it comes to informal letters that you're writing to your friends or relatives or people you know, then you will not use these pointers. So then you will use contractions, you will use idioms, you will use possessive and personal pronouns. So it's entirely the opposite. If you don't use these things in the general informal letters, then they will cut marks. It's all about maintaining a tone. So formal letters have to be written in academic formal terms. So you cannot even use these, expressions and idioms. So let's say I'm talking about advantages and disadvantages or something. So I'm not going to say in formal writing that every coin has two sides. It is a good expression, but I'd use it in speaking because that's casual. But my writing, so I would avoid all of these. Only in informal writing, I have to purposely give them these writings. So, I use contractions, I use idioms, I use personal possessive pronouns. So there are all these different types of letters also that you get the same, you identify from the question what sort of letter it is. If it is about people you know, your friends, it's informal. If it is about people you don't know at all, so editors or your bosses, it's all very formal. If you know somebody, but the purpose of writing is formal, so that's informal. Like a friend, but the purpose of writing a letter is to ask for a job or thank for a job. So then that's semi-formal and you follow the rules for formal writing. Now, apart from using linkers, they're also checking how you are, framing your paragraphs. So for academic writing, I've told you introduction, then here second paragraph where you are going to mention these key features, and then body paragraphs where you give data and numbers. In the overview, you don't have to give any number, no data at all. It's all about words. For the letters, you get 3 bullet points and you have to frame your, paragraphs around it. So they always give you 3 bullet points. You'd have 3 paragraphs, not more, not less. There's an opening line, 3 body paragraphs, signing off. That's how, letters are written. You don't have to give anything else. Now, how to do that, how to write formally, again, grammatically, of course, all of that we discuss in the session. But some do's and don'ts that I've told you, remember those. So coming back to academic now, when you're writing this, overview, you always have to begin your answer with the word overall, comma. So if I still go back to that, line graph, so let's say overall, comma, while the number of people who are is increasing, comma, the other ones are decreasing. I don't have to mention the time period as well. So let's say, from 2000 to 2017, that's what it is given to me. I'd mention the phrase over the given period, nothing else. I'm not going to say from 2000 or over these 8 years, 7 years, no. Over the given period, stick to this phrase. There is no conclusion in task 1. And you cannot end up writing 3 paragraphs on your own. So minimum 4 paragraphs. There are some type of questions in task 1, you have to write 5 as well. You will not, just not divide the passage or write answers in bullet points. Don't do that. Paragraphs, leave separate, distinct lines in between, and from general to specific. That's how we go about doing it. Now, when you're dividing information also in academic task 1, you don't have to write everything. No, that's a disaster. You have to interpret data and pick out, summarizing it. So pick out key features and mention, even in the body paragraphs, mention certain details. So there's a specific way of dividing this information also. So suppose I have a bar graph. There are different bars given to me, 5 bars given to me. Now, I'm not going to randomly just take the first 3 in one, the other 2 in the other. No. There is a basis of division of what will come in body paragraph 1 or what will come in body paragraph 2. So this is all that they're checking, your structure of the answer, what you're including in each paragraph, and then vocabulary and grammar, of course. While writing your overview, remember to only pick up key features. Don't be redundant. Don't tell them what is the diagram showing you, that you have already done in the introduction, first line. So no personal opinions, no reasons to be given. Write the answer in paragraphs. Don't give them bullet points. Don't underline, highlight anything. No, you have to write minimum 150 words. There are certain kind of phrases or language you cannot use, so don't do that. Use complex sentences, a variety of it. So, there are different kinds. You start your sentence in a certain way, you use something in the middle. You will have to, of course, first know it. It's not challenging. It's just that writing has a lot of things, but which is why then we would come into the picture to help you out, ease this process. You don't have to mug up a list of long words, academic words, list of 4,000 words, all of that you see on the internet. That's crap. And use a range of vocabulary around the task. So you have adjectives, adverbs, nouns, and verbs, depending on, of course, what the graph is showing you. Go according to that. That's what it is for task 1. So those of you who are planning to take the computer-based test, the word count will appear on the screen. So you will know exactly how many words you have written. Those of you are planning to take the paper-based test and pen paper-based, for you guys, easy way out. So just count the number of words in the first sentence and multiply it with your lines. Approximate figure you'd get, which is usually correct as well. So if you see that you've written, let's say, 155 words, add a sentence or two so that you're in the safe zone and around touching 170 or something. Now again, depending on the type of graph you're getting, the overview changes, the body paragraph changes, the language changes. So you'd have to know for 4 types what you might get. So just see, those of you who are planning to take it soon, you can use these tips. For those who have some time, I know that the live sessions would be immensely helpful to you guys. All right, now coming to task 2, which is the better, harder part of writing, and your score also, most of your score depends on task 2. So, when they're giving you a band score, what they do is to, the 66% or 2/3 of your score will depend on writing task 2, your essay, which is the same for both general and academic students. And 1/3 or 33% scores on, depends on task 1. So in your exam, again, a tip is to start backwards. Always start with your essay first, because remember, you have already done listening and reading before it. It's a continuous test. There's no break in between. There's no gap. So when you get to writing, you're already a bit tired, and you've used, you would be a bit overwhelmed. Plus, this task carries more weightage in terms of your marks. So start with task 2. Start with your essay. Even if you're taking 35 minutes, that's okay. But a lot of students end up taking a lot of time in task 1, and then that adds to the pressure later on. So start with the essay. Now, with essay also, you have to write it in a structured manner, range of vocabulary plus grammar. And again, something which students majorly falter at is their first descriptor that they give is task response. So how well are you responding to the task? Now remember this, that IELTS writing, they just need to see if you are able to manage write formally. So in a structured manner, doing this and that. But you don't have to give them multiple ideas. They're not there to try to test your knowledge on something. So even the kind of topics that they give you are very social, everyday. So education, crime, rural, urban areas, study abroad, university studies, health, fashion. These are the kinds of things that they ask you. So it's never that you're not going to have any idea of the question. Sometimes it could be that you're probably falling short of ideas. So in this session, of course, we discuss how to never go blank. What are some angles that you need to think on? So we will tell you how to brainstorm ideas and brainstorm very specifically. because you don't have a lot of time. And you don't need to go beyond 2 points. So suppose they're asking me, there are different kinds of questions that they give me in task 2 also. 5 types of essays, and then there are subtypes for advantage, disadvantage essay. Basically, they want my opinion. So, whatever type of question it is defines how many paragraphs you have, what to write in which paragraph. So, of course, you need to know that. But all in all, you provide them with your point of views and explain it. So, when you are doing that, you don't have to give them multiple points, maximum 2, or in fact, minimum maximum 2. So 2 points. So suppose they give me the question, nowadays traffic congestion is increasing a lot. What are the reasons or causes for it, and suggest some possible solutions? Now, traffic congestion, that is my main point of discussion. So from this statement, I'd get to know, okay, this is my keyword. I have to focus on this. And from the question statement, I get to know what type of essay it is. So this one is a problem solution or a cause solution essay. So I'm supposed to give them problems or, the reasons of it. If they've written in the question causes, that means reasons why it is happening, and then suggest some solutions. So I would not go beyond 2 points on this. Never. So always give them 2 causes and 2 solutions. They're not asking for more. In fact, you would always go below a 7 if you give them multiple points, because when you're doing that, you are just listing down points, and that's never a good thing. What needs to be done? The question says that you need to give the point of view and explain it. Now, this is the part of task response that students entirely miss on. So the question is telling us to list the reasons plus explain. So the question is always discuss, not name or not list. So what we do in whatever type of essay you get, no matter what type of essay, don't go beyond 2 points. Take those and explain. That explanation, the supporting arguments, why and how of it is crucial. So again, now when we are doing this, we have to follow a certain structure. For task 2, basic structure like we do in the essay, introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion. Now, like in the first task, in the second paragraph, we start with the word overall, comma. In the conclusion for task 2, when we are summarizing our points, we start with the term in conclusion. That's the most formal. Don't say to summarize, to sum up, to recapitulate, in a nutshell. Don't. All of it mean the same, yes, but they are not formal. Go with the phrase in conclusion. Now here also in the introduction, I write in a very specific order. There are 2 kinds of sentences I write, nothing more, nothing less, and in a specific order again. So background statement, thesis statement. Then in the body paragraphs also, I cannot randomly start explaining, but it shouldn't be an over generalized argument. That's a straightaway band 6. In the body paragraphs also, I have to state my main point and then go on explaining. So if I want to, let's say my question is causes and solutions. So I will write the first cause in the first sentence itself, and then go on explaining the how and the why instead of the other way around. It's such a common mistake, and students are, because they're not guided properly, or they try to take things on their own. This is something that's going to drag you down. As long as you don't give Ielts what they're looking for, you would end up with a band like this. In order to get to a 7, again, like I've told you, you've got to follow a certain pointer. So, in the sessions, we give you a checklist. Like while you're writing the answer or after you've done the answer, these are the things that you'd have to keep your eye on. And with practice or before the exam, when you're writing answers and sending it to us for correction, all that information gets drilled in your mind. So initially, you might even take more time. Instead of 40 minutes, you're taking 50 or even 1 hour to write the answer. But that's okay, because at present we'd be in the learning stage and we are practicing. Eventually, when those things are there as part of your system, then you'll be able to naturally the next answer you write, you'll be able, you'll be careful of the things that you need to do. So which is why this practice and this guidance is necessary. So a 5.5 means, of course, you're not following certain things, or you're lacking in a lot of things, all the 4 I'd say. So Ajay, I think it's you. Ajay, I think what would be more helpful are the sessions, the live classes. Here also you're going to get an understanding of the exam and all that there is. But of course, the sessions are far better. Okay, somebody is asking, is there any kind of format that is used in writing task? Well, yes. So for task 1, intro, overview, body 1, body 2, sometimes body 3. And here, introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion. In the introduction, again, we mentioned 2 statements. In the body paragraphs, you mention the main point and then go and explain the why and the how. And of course, when we brainstorm ideas, when we discuss in the session, I'll tell you why and the how you need to think of that. And then in conclusion, no new pointer has to be added. You just summarize, you tell the same thing in different words, whatever you have been mentioning in your main points. Now, how do we give these supporting arguments? How do we explain them? So like I've mentioned, the why and the how, and a very relatively easy and quick way of going about it is giving examples. But again, remember, this is formal writing. So even for general training students, it is formal. So you cannot give personal examples. Now, task 2 question will always tell you that, write relevant points and draw from your experiences. But that doesn't mean that you give them your personal experience. You have to give your experience of the world to them. So, always go with generic examples. So let's say I'm talking about health. That's my essay. And, junk food and all of that is going on. And I end up writing, my younger brother, my sibling is eating a lot of junk food, or he's not into outside. He's, not into home cooked food and is gaining a lot of weight. Now, this is a personal example. What I do is, because I don't have to give them, because it makes the writing casual. So I would make it into a more general example. So let's say I'd say the youth of the country, or I can specify the age group. So let's say teenagers or adolescents are, taking junk food or fast food. They're consuming that more. As a result of which, so now this is where my linker come in. Now, when we discuss all of this with you, one of the linkers is as a result or consequently. So now, if I know this term, I'd always use it in my sentence whenever I'm giving a result, that this is happening because of this, or this has happened. So as a result of which, they are contracting many diseases, or the obesity level is rising among this age group in modern society. So from a very specific personal example, I took it to a general one. Another way in which I could do it is also by giving studies or surveys. Now, these are all made up false facts. So we have to be very careful with them. We have to ensure that we don't give them, a very exaggerated points. So let's say I'm not going to say like 90% of the youth is into it, eating junk food. Could be true, could not be, I'm not sure. So instead of giving numbers in your, if you're putting it across, always use words. So again, those adjectives and adverbs that you'd get to learn in your task 1, that, a significant proportion of the youth is facing these issues like that. So always going with, keeping yourself out of risk. We have to tell the examiner that we can write academically, but ensuring that we don't end up giving them, false or wrong data in this manner. And even when we are putting across these facts or we're giving an example, it has to be to the point, explaining your main idea. Otherwise, it would not make sense. But see that, officially when we discuss descriptors in the class, you'd see that there's no point around example that you should or should not take them. But in general, if you see, if somebody takes an example and explain, it's always better. So we have to be careful when we are choosing an example, but we tell you in the sessions how to think for it and the do's and don'ts around that as well. So in writing task 2, always see that you're giving, to the point answers, not digressing from the topic. Minimum 250 words you're supposed to write. So good, safe bet here also is around 270, 280 words. Don't use contractions, don't use personal pronouns, don't use idioms, any sort of casual language. You'd have to stick to formal terms as well in task 2 as well. And another tip is to remember that, depending on the type of essay you're getting, this is valid across. So whatever essay you get, you have to always ensure that you write one central idea in one paragraph. So let's say the same question, cause solution. So some students, what they do is in body paragraph 1, they'll take the first cause, explain it, and then mention the solution. In the second body paragraph, second cause and solution. Otherwise, this would have been okay. But Ielts want one idea in one paragraph. So then you take 2 causes in one paragraph and the solutions of it in the next paragraph, not mixing it together. Same goes for advantage, disadvantage. 2 advantages in one, 2 disadvantages in the other. Now with advantage, disadvantage question, it's a big one because there are multiple subparts to it as well. They change questions and give you, and if they change it, your paragraphs change and the way you write them also changes. But of course we do that. Can we use idioms in task 1? No. Until and unless it is informal letter, don't use it. So also, a lot of students make this error of changing their viewpoint throughout the answer or in the middle. And this happens usually with the opinion question. By the way, like for task 1, I've told you table is going on recently. For task 2, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. That question is going on, that type of essay, and the discussion also. The opinion question in general otherwise is, very frequent, where they ask you to agree or disagree with something. So they're going to give you a statement and they ask you whether you agree or disagree. Now, some students think that they always have to agree. No. You can completely disagree and state your reasons. That's also okay. Or you can also partially agree. I see some people tell you don't partially agree. That's confusing. It's not. As long as you're very clear about it and you follow that structure throughout the answer. So in the introduction, you always have to state your opinion. That's one area again that students miss out on. Whether you agree strongly or completely with one side, or you disagree, or you partially agree, this fact has to be mentioned in the essay. And then you follow it. So if you're agreeing in the body paragraphs, you will state reasons why and explain them. Then don't talk about the other side. Then don't say, there could be some people or there are some cases when the other side can also work. No. If you are agreeing, stick to one. If you disagree, stick to the other. Don't keep changing or don't mention the other side at all. If you partially agree with it, so this also works and that also works sometimes, then one paragraph will be about agreement, the second paragraph will be about disagreement. And in the conclusion, again, you're going to end up telling them that, this essay partially agrees. And these are the reasons. So avoiding as much confusion as you can in your essay. There needs to be clarity. There needs to be that flow of idea and thought. Otherwise, coherence, cohesion score, task response score, all of it comes down. What if you exceed the word limit? You have to exceed the word limit. That's the minimum word count they're giving you. So if 250 is given, you have to write at least 250. So 260, 70, 80, that's how you are supposed to go. That's what I've been telling. Alright guys, so we are coming to an end of the session. Let me tell you about these classes that I've been mentioning until now. Yeah, so this is just like a go through an overall summary of the things you have to do and not have to do and be careful of in both the tasks that I've told you. But these are the sessions where we discuss everything in detail and, more importantly, help you prepare with what to do and not to do. And in the live classes, you're going to end up writing answers, getting feedback. Even after your sessions are over, let's say, or the classes are over, you can keep writing and sending answers to your instructor for checking it. So these sessions, there are either regular classes or fast track. So those of you are planning, you have a month or more, I'd say the regular class would work. Those of you who are in a hurry, so let's say by 1 or 2 weeks only you're supposed to do it, fast track courses could also work. If you don't have exactly 2 weeks, we can still figure out a way to help you. We are giving you 50% off on these sessions. Either you have the morning class or the evening class. There are multiple instructors Monday to Friday where you'd be able to meet them. These are on all 4 skills. We will provide you with all the study material. You don't have to go get lost in a pool of ideas that are there. The Cambridge books, recent changes that are coming in the exam pattern, the recent exam questions. So let's say if it is writing, so sample answers, language, vocabulary for both task 1, task 2. For speaking also, sample answers, all 3 parts, things you have to do, not to do, idioms, phrasal verbs, collocations, adjectives, adverbs, all of that and strategies for taking the exam, all of that we'd provide you. So you'd get your own dashboard. These are live classes online. So, like I'm here in front of you, there'd be a person, one of the instructors, and you'd come to our dashboard, Leverage Live's platform, where you will be able to look at your entire schedule of classes. All these classes will also be recorded. So even after your course is over, you can get back to the recording if you want to. If you miss a class any day, again, you can visit the recording as well. All right, so thank you so much for joining in today. I hope to see a lot of you in my sessions, of course, and keep watching this space for more information from Leverage Edu. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.